There are a lot of things wrong with socialism and communism, which communism and socialism are very similar. Right? I forgot how people describe it. One's like an ideology, one's an economic system. But basically, we live in a mixed economy that leans slightly to the right. Basically, for the most part, taxes are below 50% for the average person, meaning we lean a little bit more towards a free market. I think that's pretty good. I think we could be a little bit to the left, but I'm center left, so what do you expect from someone like me? I'm not a fan of laissez-faire capitalism, and I agree with this tweet from Lee Camp of Redacted Tonight, but I think he omits some important points. So first, let's take a look at what Redacted Tonight said, and just to let you know, this video is going to be about my debate with the official, verified Socialist Party on Twitter, and why I believe they are terrifying authoritarians who just want to enslave people. First, here we have Lee Camp. I think Lee Camp's awesome, by the way. He's a left-wing comedian. He's a host of Redacted Tonight, and he makes really great points. He's a funny guy, and in my opinion, he's more of like an old school, like anti-war type, like Occupy type. I think he's a good dude. I've known him for a while. He says, "Please don't give me that, quote, 'it's not capitalism, it's crony capitalism' line. Capitalism always leads to government working in favor of those with the most capital." I completely agree. I completely agree, and that's why I'm in favor of a mixed economy, and I said as much. So, my response is centralized power leads to the same thing in both directions. Communism and socialism are not exempt from corruption. Mixed economy is the way to go. There's no guarantee that laissez-faire capitalism results in centralized power, and there's no guarantee, somewhat, that communism and socialism ends up in centralized power. For the most part, I think it's like a 99% chance that socialism and communism will end up with centralized power, but it's not 100. However, laissez-faire capitalism, it's substantially less, right? So here's what I think happens. With a capitalist laissez-faire type system, like full-on, ANCAP, as far right as you can go on the economic spectrum, it will take a long time for power to centralize. Because you start with a bunch of people doing their businesses, slowly some businesses are more successful, buy up others, it makes competition harder in some areas, and eventually you end up with a few mega corporations that own everything. And that's kind of where we are today. But we do have regulation, we do have antitrust laws, so we can break those things up. To me, that makes sense. There's no guarantee that happens, but over time it will. And that's the problem. The centralized power, when all of these corporations are under one umbrella, and then they can start telling the government what they can or can't do. In fact, there are some corporations that are more powerful than many governments. In fact, many corporations are. And that's when things get worrisome. We have these international, these multinational billion-dollar corporations that can do whatever they want for the most part. However, they ultimately end up being subjected to the laws of a bunch of different countries. So ultimately, that's why I kind of like the system we have, right? It's not perfect. There's a lot of corruption that needs to be dealt with, but for the most part, it's better than just unrepentant, like unfettered capitalism where, in my opinion, humans will sell exactly what sells given the opportunity. And that means you'll have snake oil salesmen, people who are literally selling bunk products to people to exploit them and take their wealth, like take their resources, and that causes humanity to suffer. It's not a good thing. And I actually got into an argument with some Trump supporters where I said, I believe that force of any kind is wrong when it comes to how our society should be functioning. And that includes manipulative force. And so physical force to take someone's belongings, obviously wrong. And then I said, but also coercive force, where you tell someone, like, I'm going to blackmail you. Obviously wrong. Those are both illegal. But manipulative force, to an extent, is illegal in some capacities, and I'm not a fan of that. Now, they argued with me saying if someone chooses to give up their belongings, if you can sell something to them and they believe it, what's wrong with that? And I said, okay, the result is a media system. Massive, powerful corporations with nearly limitless resources lying to people to generate traffic. And that's what they're doing. They're lying to you, making 99% negative stories about Trump, specifically to get you to click so they can sell ads. I think that's wrong. I'm not a fan of it. Thus, I'm center-left, right? What ends up happening, though, is when you go socialism, you basically just say, centralize all the power, near immediately. Now, the reason I say 99% is because the general idea of socialism and communism is that there is no centralized power. So on paper, sounds good, but basically, in every circumstance, you will have some authority figure, some command economy controlling everything, and thus they will oppress those who disagree. Now, on to the thread. Because when I tweeted about this, the Socialist Party decided to respond directly by saying, communism and socialism are not exempt from corruption. That's my quote. They said, 1, yes, they are, as money will be obsolete. That makes no sense. They said, 2, Communism, socialism meant a class-free society for Marx and Engels, where people collectively own the means of production and there is free access to all goods and services. Clearly, that makes literally no sense, because how do you determine who gets what? I'll give you a really good example of why this makes no sense. It's a product called Soylent. You may have heard of it. It's supposed to be a meal in a bottle. Everything you need in one bottle. The problem was, this company wanted to formulate meal replacement. They said, we'll put everything you need in one bottle so you never have to eat again. Unfortunately, that's not how it works, because every single person has a different size body and a different requirement for certain nutrients that only your body knows. Which means, if you have a factory producing bread, someone might just be 6'5" and need more bread than someone who's 4'7". You can't just say everybody gets a slice of bread, because now you're giving too much bread to one person and not enough to the other. Having everyone just own everything just sounds like, it doesn't even sound good. It doesn't make sense. Everyone owns everything, so everyone can have whatever they want. Great, then people are going to eat Hoes and Twinkies all day and do nothing, because they own everything. Why would they? Right? There needs to be some kind of system for appropriately prioritizing who gets what. That's kind of what we have in our mixed economy, that you earn money and then you decide what works best for you. However, some things can't be bought. They're illegal. Some things can't be sold, and some things are restricted in how much and how often they can be sold. Right? It's difficult to determine. Personally, I think drugs should be legal. It's complicated. It really is, because I don't like the idea of people selling drugs to kids, for sure. But I also kind of feel like if you're an adult and you decide to go smoke weed or do whatever you want with your own body, like, yeah, go do it, so long as you're not committing other crimes. So it's a challenge. I think maybe we should have regulation on drugs. That's why I like the mixed economy. That's why I'm a social liberal, because, like, you know what, sell the weed, but regulate it. You know, that way we can make sure that people who are getting it, we're being responsible, and, you know, the weak aren't being exploited, but you still have the choice to or not to. But let's read what happens. Young Contrarian responded saying, posts like these truly expose official Socialist Party GB's cluelessness about human nature. Yes, they are, as money will be obsolete. Like, really? What an embarrassment to human thinking. Reading your posts, I get that feeling where I just want to hide because I feel ashamed for you. Well, let's address that. They believe there won't be corruption because there's no money. That literally makes no sense. A lot of corruption has nothing to do with money. Ever hear of nepotism? Yes, has nothing to do with money. It's just putting your family member in a position of power. That's it. Money is just a trade medium. It's a tool. It can be exploited. That's why I like the mixed economy, okay? But money isn't causing corruption. People cause corruption. And in communist systems, where yes, they still they still use money to an extent, you have people giving positions of power to their friends and family. That is corruption. You have people letting people get away with crimes because of their connections. That is corruption. Nothing to do with money. It's absurd. But it gets good, because they effectively start advocating for what I would say is slavery. They say, human nature is being cooperative and sharing. Human beings were doing this for millennia before private ownership of resources came along. The economic basis of society shapes human thinking and behavior. Ending capitalism will make competition, greed, and coercion unnecessary. My response: so private individuals should not be able to own the fruits of their labor? Capitalism is a system in which the private individual has a right to own the fruits of their labor. Socialism is where a collective owns the fruits of all labor. That means if you think when you whittle a little kayak out of a piece of wood that you have a right to own it because you did that, that's capitalism. The right to own private property. Socialism would be if you do that, the collective has to decide where it goes, okay? That's like hardcore left socialism, hardcore right capitalism. Then you have the in-between, which I think, obviously you need to balance. Now, some socialists have tried to draw a distinction between private property and personal property. But to me, that sounds like a cop-out because it makes no sense, right? If I make something, it's mine, okay? If I go and do something, it's mine, and we have to respect that because people are struggling to survive, right? Then we have to figure out how to prioritize what gets produced by who and how this functions, and I think we're doing a pretty good job, but we could be doing better. The Socialist Party responded, in the future, socialist society, there will be cooperation and sharing, not competition and selfishness. The people will own the fruits of their labor, all of the fruits, collectively, with no asset-owning parasitic minority class stealing a large proportion for themselves. It sounds like a 10-year-old wrote this. It seriously does. That's how they view the world. Okay, that's literally not how it works. You've probably never run your own business, and you've probably never had to deal with surviving on your own. This is why I think you end up with these, like, small percentage of progressive activists who tend to be wealthy, according to the Hidden Tribes study. They're more than twice as likely to make 6 figures. Yeah, because they don't understand what struggle is really like. I responded, this doesn't answer my question. If I build my own electric car in my garage, can I keep it? How do I come by acquiring the parts for it? They said, you can keep it. How do you come by the parts? By asking the various factories producing them. But why bother when there will be high-quality electric cars produced for people who need them for free? That reveals the narrow-mindedness and childlike immaturity of the Socialist Party. They don't seem to understand that different people like different things. Some people might not like spinach on their pizza, and some people might. Some people might want pineapple on their pizza, and it might become a meme because many people find it disgusting. Why would you want to build an electric car? Because it's fun? Why do any of these, middle-aged guys like working on cars in their garage? Why do young people like working on cars in their garage? Why do people like hanging out at the shop talking about cars? It's a hobby. It's a profession, and it's fun, and it's passion. I am not passionate about cars. I'm passionate about skateboarding, video games, and talking about culture and politics. So when you say, why bother? What do you mean, why bother? It says you don't understand that different people like different things. They're literally talking about creating a society where, no, who in their right mind would want to have a hobby? No. I said, because I am passionate about tinkering and trying to make new things. I am driven to try to innovate and want to do it on my own. If I can just ask a factory for parts, how do we decide who gets priority? Parts will not be infinite. They said, inventors and innovators would have no problems obtaining parts and equipment to produce new things and improve on what already exists if the purpose of the work is benefiting the socialist society. Less so if you're a nutter wanting to sell what you make for selfish gain. I love the extreme immaturity of assuming you're a nut job for trying to produce a product that would help somebody. Let's say in my garage, I cure some disease or I discover some chemical reaction, and I say, wow, look what I just did. I would like to sell this to somebody who can better use it than me. That makes you a nutter, apparently. Well, look, okay, I understand you think maybe people shouldn't be driven by the profit motive. Okay, we'll go with that. The problem is, you are taking away the individual freedom for people to explore their lives and determine what they want to do. And you are saying, well, why would you want to do that in the first place? And thus you wouldn't be able to. So I responded. This didn't answer the question. How do we determine who gets to be an inventor? If you're a janitor and that's your job in the communist society or socialist society, and you say, I'd like parts to build a car, they're going to say, but you're a janitor, what do you need parts for? No, no parts for you. Only the inventors are allowed to have it. Unless there's a different system like capital, like currency, to determine what you can get. I said, working on cars is an extremely popular hobby. What system do you use to determine who gets access to parts? And this is where they reveal everything. Anyone can be an inventor, but there would have to be rules regarding providing potentially dangerous equipment, chemicals, parts, etc. How this is set up will be determined by the future socialist society. Today's small minority of socialists cannot dictate what should happen. And there it is. I said there already are rules for dangerous materials. So if you don't know how these systems will work, what are you advocating for? Taking the right to private property away without the means for an economy to function? I sent that last tweet, 10:39 a.m. this morning, and they never responded. Why? Because it shows they don't have any answers other than they want you to submit. They want you to give up your right to do what you want, to build what you want, to buy what you want, to explore this life, the one life you get. They want to take that away from you, and they have no idea how the system could actually function. Now, I'm not saying all socialists, but this is the verified socialist party on Twitter who couldn't answer any of these simple questions. In fact, I had to tell them twice they didn't answer my question. The problem is, in their society, no, you will not be allowed to be an inventor. You're the janitor, so shut your fucking mouth and do as you're told, and you will not be granted access to these parts because only those we choose will be allowed to do these things. And that is a truly terrifying world. We need a mixed economy. We need to say, look, you can't go and build a nuclear bomb in your backyard. That's a bad idea. And we've actually had to stop people from doing this. There's some crazy urban legends about this. But to straight up say, we want to implement this by making people choose to do it, but we have no idea how it will work, is extremely ignorant and irresponsible. And the true outcome will be truly terrifying. That we don't know how you'll get to do what you want. In fact, you probably won't. But anyway, rant over. I swore. You noticed that. It's going to be bad. YouTube's going to get mad at me. Stick around. I got some more videos to come, and I will see you in a few minutes on this channel.